want to talk about, because you say in the book, in the chapter about it, you said, it's claimed, I think rightly, that football has been more effective than anything else in Britain in combating racism. I think a lot of people would argue that quite the opposite is true.
Well, I would, again, with the deepest respect, take issue with you on that. I mean, when you and I went...
It's a meeting point.
Nothing like it was 20 or 30 years ago.
I think it's an illusion that... They've swept it on the carpet in a sense. It's still very bad, you know, and abroad, too. I mean, it's palpable abroad, and the World Cup's going to demonstrate that.
Much less than it was. These things take time. Well, look, you brought up Wilberforce. Not very long ago, 6 or 7 generations ago, when he made his speech in Parliament, black people were considered to be objects, to be bought and sold, to be disregarded, to be shipped across. Even if half of them died, it didn't matter. The progress then has been massive. When black footballers came into English football, which is all I know about properly in terms of what goes on behind it, they were hooted out, and that's changed quite a lot. Well, it's changed such a lot, Michael.
You support Arsenal. You talked to Thierry Henry about this, as I've done, you know?
And I saw your interview with Thierry Henry, and I think Thierry Henry is living proof that racism has died away.
Oh, no, indeed, no.
It's dying away.
Well, no. I mean, also...
It's about to die away.
You're not getting off this one, how many Asian players do you see? How many Asian people do you see at football matches? Only 1% of all Asian and black people actually feel safe enough to go to football matches. That's how uncomfortable it is for them. And it's not just overt racism. It's about a feeling. It's about being uncomfortable, about being not welcome, not made welcome.
Well, there's a lot of people who are black people, if I can use that without being offensive. People come to Arsenal, which I go to with my son regularly. There's a lot of people there. And the 2 British players on the Arsenal team are both black Brits.
That's right.
And I think I'm just more optimistic than you.
Muhammad Ali was the most famous man in the world. There are men in America and here in this country who would have thought, Muhammad Ali is great, and they would hate black men. I mean, you know, that you support your football team, I mean, doesn't mean to say that you're going to embrace the notion of equality.
I do think that things are changing for the better in this country.
All right.
I think Trevor Phillips, the head of the racial board, will tell you that I think they are. And even in football. And I think football's helping to bring it about.
They're trying very hard, that's for sure. But I think really, when the statement you made in that book, I think that we're going to have an argument about that.
It's open to question.
But then, can I just say, with the statement you made in the book, I mean, and I've not read the book, but the statement... So that gives me no right to say anything. Just what I've heard of this is... Melvyn said it's done its job as far as trying to rid of us of some racism. Now, whether Asian people are playing football or not, that's society... It's not football's job to run the country. Do you know what I mean? But I think in certain pockets, football absolutely has done... I think what you argue that it has done, because 20, 30 years... Not even that, 20 years ago, we all remember bananas being chucked on the pitch, we all remember ape sounds, you know, all the time. I mean, all the time. Yes, it probably does still happen on nothing like the same scale.
That only means to say that they're actually controlling it more than they do.
Yeah, possibly,
I mean, if you look at something like the World Cup now, I think there's going to be a great problem there from far-right groups of Poland and Italy and places like that.
But there's a small percentage of stupid, prejudiced idiots in any big society, and there always has been. There's not much you can do about them except control them. The vast majority of people in this country are massively more tolerant, and I think football has helped to make them
But the question you have to ask yourself, and that's undeniably true, is why is a greater percentage of those idiots go to football matches? That's what you have to ask yourself. If you went to any other major sporting event apart from football, you would not get this. Why do you not need at a rugby game or a cricket game or whatever, any other mass sport, why do you not need the presence of policemen like you do at football?
Well, football has always been a rough, popular game. I mean, football was banned in this country.
When I first started going to watch Barnsley play, I didn't have to go to accompanied by 2,000 policemen, for Christ's sake. I used to stand in the crowd with people from the opposing fans, for God's sake. That doesn't happen anymore.
Michael, just a second. When you watch Barnsley, when my dad took me to watch Carlisle United in the 1940s, everybody was white. Everybody on the pitch was white. Everybody in the crowd was white. And that is a huge... You can't deny that is a huge...
This is not true.
Michael,
Charlie Williams played for Doncaster Rovers. I rest my case.
I believe in heroes. Is Nelson Mandela, who I've come to know really very well. And when he'd been let out of prison, one of the first films he saw was cry freedom. And I met him, and the first thing he said to me was, "Richard, your film has had more impact on the white population of South Africa than any speech I've ever made." Well, he was a bloody liar, of course. I mean...
The question really, I mean, well, the other film, the great important film was Gandhi, and I suppose that has a particular resonance now, given that it's sort of 60 years on from the beginnings of the modern India. Then you look at the new India now, and you see exactly, you know, what developed from that. But that took you 20 years to do, didn't it?
Yes.
And so, in a sense, that kind of dedication is almost a kind of a zealous pursuit, isn't it? I mean, what is it? What was it about that story that fired you so much that you mortgaged your home, you actually, 20 years to do it, you went there and shot it with 400,000 extras. I mean, David, your brother, says, the man's mad.
Yes, he still says that.
He still says that.
I suppose, in a way, I never wanted to direct. I was a ham actor, and I was a producer, and I was happy as a sandboy. And then somebody gave me the biography of Gandhi, and I was totally bowled over by it. I mean, shattered by it, really. An incident when he was walking along the street in South Africa with another Indian, and two white South Africans came towards him, and his friend, the Indian, pulled him into the gutter to let the white South Africans walk by. And Gandhiji said to his friend, "You know, I am always amazed that men should feel themselves honored by the humiliation of their fellow human beings." I thought, wow, he's 18, I mean, this is something I have to read, and I started to read. And I remembered also, in the 30s, going to what used to be newsreel cinemas. And my old man took me my father to a newsreel cinema. And Gandhi was in the 30s, early 30s, came from India with his dhoti and his staff and so on. And people started to laugh and started to mock him. And my father said, "Son, the loud laugh bespeaks the vacant mind. He is a great, great man." And I was sure he was right. And it was in my philosophy of heroes and so on. And I thought he was one of the greatest men that's ever lived.
How much a part of shaping your political ideals was the birth of Ivan, your son? I mean, did that have a political dimension to it? And explain why.
Yes, I suppose it did. I mean, when you're about to become a dad for the first time, it's incredibly exciting, and you have all these hopes and expectations, and, you know... And then when Ivan was born, and he was, quite quickly, it became apparent he was going to be very severely disabled. It has a huge impact, and it takes you a long time to come to terms with that. And being the parent of a very disabled child brings you into contact with all sorts of different things in terms of special schools and social workers helping your family and getting the care you need and going to hospital a lot and spending a lot of time, you know, so it brings you in touch with a whole vital and important world, and you get an insight into what other parents with disabled children have to do. I don't think it's changed me completely as a politician, but it has certainly, it's made me think a lot about politics, about the health service, about the things we need to do to help families. You know, because we're lucky, we are wealthy, we can afford to get lots of extra help. But, you know, all of us who are parents with disabled children, we're not angels, you know. And so some people are angels and they do a fantastic job, but most of us are just normal mums and dads, and we try and do our best. But it's a huge struggle, and you need a lot of help, and I understand that.
Yeah, it puts a huge strain on a relationship. It must do. I mean, the two of you and your wife, it must put a tremendous tug on it.
It does, because it's a big pressure. But, I mean, we both sort of said to each other, look, you know, this has happened, and he's a lovely boy, he's wonderful, he's 5 now. And we said to ourselves, look, if we can't manage with this, if we can't cope and look after him and give him a really good home, then we're no good. And So I think we do our best. And
given the kind of ambition that you've got, you're now leader of your party, and there's a likelihood that you will be eventually a prime minister of this country. But you are a family man. I mean, everything you read about you have a very close affiliation with your family. I mean, you're there, you're a hands-on dad, so to speak. Is it possible, do you think, to have that kind of political ambition and to run the family at the same time, the way that you do?
I think so. I mean, I think there'd be something wrong if actually you couldn't be leader of the Conservative Party and a good dad, or prime minister and a good dad. I think that, you know, you'd have to change the job. I mean, I think you can do both, and it's important. Actually, I think it keeps you grounded. You know, in my job, sometimes you do extraordinary things and meet extraordinary people. I mean, the other day we had the state opening of Parliament and then this extraordinary thing at St Pancras Station. So, you know, twice in a day you get to meet the Queen, you know, sort of. But then you get home at night and actually there are nappies to be changed and someone's got to cook dinner and, you know, you have to take, you know, because my wife works. And so that brings you, that grounds, I think your family sort of grounds you, and having young kids grounds you, and make sure you don't get carried away in the sort of flight of what life can be in politics.
But you've been in politics long enough to have seen what happens to politicians, to see what happens to people who seek high office. I mean, look at, well, I mean, a recent example of Blair. Look at the kind of intrusion, if you like, the kind of pressure on him, and not just him, but anybody who's in high office. The media nowadays scrutinise them, and go through their dustbins a lot.
Yeah,
I mean...
yeah, they went through our bins, actually. It was...
Did they?
Yeah.
Recently?
Yes, actually, you know, I sort of thought, well, it's the bins, it's rubbish. But actually, when they do, you do mind a bit, because,
of course
you know, you didn't...
Got to go through your bins?
Yeah, well, exactly.
But I mean, but knowing all that as you do, and having observed it, and being able to do another job if you wanted to, which probably would pay a damn sight more, why did you do it?
Because it's the most important job, it's the best thing to do, and I just find it. I really enjoy it, I think it's important, I think it matters what we do in this country. It's a fantastic country, but we could do even better. And it's a huge privilege to do my job, be leader of the Conservative Party, let alone be Prime Minister. It's a huge privilege.
Just the worst part of it was that women were not expected to be on television to start with.
No, it was very eccentric. It was very unusual.
Yes, it was, indeed.
And that invited a certain attention. You got it from the press, but you got it from the public too. But also, I was out there alone. I mean, there was no other women doing regular television programmes at all. And the whole building, Television Centre, was, apart from actresses, was run by men in suits, ordered, headed departments and ran programmes. We had a woman producer on a late-night lineup, and we had a wonderful support system of women, but they didn't get out in front of the camera.
Did they ever explain to you why?
Yes, I mean, I went to see, it's an oft-told tale this, I went to see the head of news, and I said, look, it's the 60s, things are changing, and I don't want a different job than the one I have already, but I would like to know when women will be allowed to read the news. And he said, oh, John, I'll make it very clear why they'll never be able to read the news. They will never read the news. First of all, their clothes will be distracting. Their voices will be too shrill. And when there's bad news, they won't be able to contain their emotions.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
It is.
Well, that was considered, that was a reasonable, and that was the head of news at the time who had made that decision. In fact, it wasn't many years before Angela Rippon broke that taboo, and she was reading the news late on BBC Two, and of course she does have the most beautifully dark modulated voice, which made her, you know, acceptable as the new arrival, and from then on Anna Ford arrived.
But the great thing about you was not so much that you actually got the job and you did it in defiance of all this, but also, I mean, what you did was you used your looks, you used your sense of fashion, you wore short skirts, you were a very modern woman, weren't you?
Well, I enjoyed, you know, I've always enjoyed clothes, and the short skirts were very new. I mean, someone did write to me once and said, I think you should know that 3 million people saw your bottom last night on television. And my response was, we don't have 3 million viewers. I would only wish that we had. But it's so that it stirred that up quite a bit. And I enjoyed that. And also, how you look is part of your personality. So I would be hard put to separate the one from the other.
Absolutely, and you flirt with people, and why would you not? I mean, that's part of an interviewer's equipment.
Yes, you use the phrase, of course, the familiar phrase, and that got me into trouble in the 60s with the very harsh feminists who, in a sense, I'm talking about the, you know, the dungarees and no makeup, whatever.
Yes.
And
Bobber boots.
they had a cause and they were pursuing it, but they saw me as a treacherous betrayer because I like clothes and makeup, and indeed I like men, and I made that clear. And they came up to me at one of the kind of feminist occasions which I went to and said, you have no place here. You have no place here. You've betrayed, you know, what we're about. You don't understand it. And I think in the long term, I probably understood it better than they did without realising it.
Yes.
That in fact, women across the board are all interested in having equal pay and equal opportunity. It doesn't matter whether you wear loads and loads of makeup and show your cleavage, or whether you want to dress in a very plain way and, you know, look like a truck driver.
Sure. Quite right. But I'm interested in the politics, because you had this meteoric rise, didn't you? I mean, you were first of all up and coming, and then next thing you're in number 10. What part did Cherie, your wife, play in this? I mean, politically did she influence you? Did she have ambition for you, or maybe she had more ambition for herself than you did for yourself?
Yeah, it was. We both actually fought the 1983 election. No, I think what she's provided, and this is what again, I think it's difficult if you don't have that stable family and someone who's a partner and a friend as well as the person who Mike is my wife, and yeah, no, she's been fantastic all the way through. But it's a strange thing when you know, when you come into politics and you've all this kind of pressure on your family. I think it either makes it a very strong unit, or sometimes it can break it apart.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, you actually went to Downing Street, number 10, and you're the first incumbent to have a young family there for I don't know how long it might have been, probably ever. And that must have been, for them, very difficult indeed. You as Prime Minister can cope with that's your work, your office, your place of work. But for them, it must be like some imprisonment in many ways.
Yeah, but, you know, I find with the family, provided you're all close together, when you close the flat door at night, we don't actually live in number 10, we live 2 doors up above number 12, and when you go to a flat at night and you close the door, I mean, of course it's different in one sense, but you're still talking about the same things you'd expect us to talk about. You know, the kids getting their homework done,
Yes.
what's happened today,
Yes.
and I think if your family is very strong, then it works. And,
Yes.
well, touch wood, it has.
But going back to the time that you met Cherie, I mean, I knew your father-in-law, Tony Booth, very well. I used to go drinking with him in Manchester. And he was a formidable...
You and several others, yeah.
Me and the rest of Manchester.
Yeah. Not anymore, though. He doesn't touch a drop anymore.
No, he was a character.
And Michael, you haven't touched a drop since about 3:30, right?
This is true. I might start drinking on this show, actually. but I mean, what was your meeting with him like? I mean, were you this also larger-than-life character?
Well, the thing I remember most about Tony in the first meeting is this is the first meeting actually just after we got married and we were in our house, and he comes into the house, and obviously I'd met him before, but I hadn't really sat down and had a proper chat with him, and he says, "Do you mind if I light a joint?" And I'm kind of thinking, this is my father-in-law. No, it should be the other way around, surely. So I said no, incidentally, just...
And when you go into number 10, I mean, you had this extraordinary political life early on, where you were one moment they were sort of young and up and promising, and then into number 10 as a leader. Had you discussed before that? You obviously had. You'd anguished about it, no doubt, with your wife about what happens to somebody when they A, take up as leader, and B, as Prime Minister. And did you have any doubts at all about going for that office?
Well, what happened was it came upon me very suddenly, because John Smith, who was the previous leader of the Labour Party, died very suddenly. And so you basically then just had to make up your mind, because what happened was people immediately speculate on who's going to be the next leader, and within 24 hours you have to make up your mind. You're either going to go for it or not, and I did. So we never had much of a chance to find out, but it's the scariest thing that will ever happen to you if you're ever in a situation where you just overnight step into a different league of being well known. And I just remember for the first few nights after John died, just every morning waking up sort of with the back of my neck damp, just thinking, what on earth? You know, suddenly your life, you know you're going to go for it because you just think, well, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do it. But you know your whole of your life is going to change, and it's a very strange experience because you suddenly walk out the front door and there's all the cameras and TV people. And even though I'd been, you know, quite well known before then, it was sort of well known in a small way, and then suddenly it's completely different.